Well, hello, welcome to another video in biology. In this video, we're going to be discussing factors that threaten biodiversity. So as we explore this topic, let's first talk about extinction rates. Extinction naturally occurs over time. Okay, this is a gradual process that occurs without the aid of humans. So animals do naturally die off and become extinct without humans actually killing them off. I know we've gotten used to the idea that animals animals die off because of the hand that humans play in the environment. But this is a naturally occurring process. This happens due to climate change, natural disasters, and change in behavior of organisms. This type of extinction we call background extinction. And again, background extinction is a gradual process that occurs naturally over time. Now, some of the concerns that we're having right now is that we're noticing an accelerated extinction rate over all species throughout the planet. In fact, scientists have calculated that extinction rates are 1,000 times the normal rate. That's pretty dramatic when you stop to think about it. It's not 10 times more, it's not 100 times more, but it's 1,000 times the normal extinction rate. So we are killing off animals at an alarming rate, and that's what we're going to discuss in this video. What are the factors that come into play in this increased extinction rate, and this threatens our biodiversity and the planet. So this concern that we have, we call this a mass extinction. This is an event in which a large percentage of all living species become extinct in a relatively short period of time. And again, this is due to the increased activity that we humans or the increased stress that we're placing on our environment. All right, so let's dive a little bit deeper into the factors that are actually threatening our biodiversity. So just look at that word biodiversity, BioLife Diversity. When you look at the planet and when you look at all the different organisms that exist, there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of living organisms that live on this planet. So for example, with cats, as we discussed in section 1 of this chapter, just for feline, just the species of cats, there are different variety of cats, there are different variety of canines, of dogs, birds, you name it. So there's a lot of variety in our planet, and we're slowly beginning to see that die off. And here are the factors that come into play with this. The biggest factor is humans, of course, and the activities and the things that we do to our environment. And we're also going to discuss fragmentation, overexploitation, habitat loss, and pollution. Now, with habitat loss, we're also going to talk about habitat destruction, and also introduction of species into environments that are not capable of sustaining those species. So destruction of habitat, let's take a look at that. So this is a dramatic example of what's happening right now in our rainforest, for example. The top producers of beef on our planet are Argentina and Brazil. Now, where are they keeping all these millions and millions of cows that are used and processed for our consumption? We're actually tearing down rainforest to make room for these massive farms and processing plants for beef. Yes, beef is destroying the rainforest, believe it or not. So our insatiate appetite for meat is doing that. And I'm not trying to make a political statement of any kind. This is just a fact that I'm bringing out that most people aren't aware of. Okay? So fragmentation of habitat. What is that? Okay, there's an edge effect that takes place in fragmenting our habitat. Okay, what we end up doing is that we have these large ecosystems, and we carve these large ecosystems into smaller ones. Hence the word fragmentation of habitat. So we're fragmenting, we're breaking up into pieces, large ecosystems, and in doing so, we cause what's called edge effect. So just so you'll know, so we have these massive lush rainforests, or any kind of forest, any kind of wooded area in our community, because we have wooded areas here in San Antonio also. And what's happening is that as the human population grows, as people move into these cities, we end up developing these areas that were once vibrant places for life to exist, and we carve roads into them. So something to know about forest, for example, or wooded areas. So temperatures and humidity levels differ on the edge of a wooded area as opposed to the interior of a forest. Okay? Edge effect can change these conditions. Because if you're carving a road, if you're putting a road right in the middle of a forest, you're going to change the humidity levels and the temperature levels, which is going to alter the different types of species that can exist in these areas. Because some animals have developed a niche in the interior of a forest where the temperature, they're used to a certain temperature, they're used to certain humidity levels. And once we carve roads in the middle of these forests, we alter these conditions and we compromise the survivability of these organisms. So again, so you have these roads that are carved into these forest areas. So if you can imagine this being the ecosystem, this green area representing our forest, right? So let's say, again, our population is growing and we want to develop new neighborhoods for a growing population, and we develop and we build a road right in the middle. And of course, that's just a road. With roads come houses, come shopping malls, come stores. So this is just a very, uh, at minimum, what occurs when we develop an area. So let's say we carve a road right through a wooded area. So with that road, you can see that our ecosystem has already just been cut in half. Because more than likely, the organisms that live on the right side are less likely to travel over to the left side and interact with the organisms on the left. So you might have less mating because maybe the males will be afraid to cross over to the left or vice versa, left to the right. Okay? And if they do, they might end up getting run over by cars. Okay? So you have organisms that had a large ecosystem where they could interact with other organisms, and now that ecosystem has been cut in half. But edge effect takes place. And what edge effect does is that these organisms not only do they stay away from the edge of the road, but they typically, out of fear, they stay further away from the road. They stay several yards away. So this edge effect, this new area that we just added, this is an area where animals will typically avoid. So as you can see, this edge effect has now reduced our already cut in half ecosystem even smaller. The temperature has changed, humidity levels have changed, and this new area, this new developed area, has also made another space that has left these organisms that used to live comfortably in the interior of this ecosystem. Now they are exposed to other predators. Okay, and this type of development does compromise and threaten biodiversity in any ecosystem. Now, of course, as you know, typically when we develop an area, we build more than just one road. Let's just say we make another road, and we have edge effect on that road as well. So now you can see the once large ecosystem where animals would thrive and interact with each other has now been fragmented into 4 smaller ecosystems. And more than likely, these smaller ecosystems, now the animals, now the resources have been limited. Now competition is going to increase. And now predation, the predators are more than likely to catch these organisms. Now you're going to see biodiversity increase dramatically because of this, and that is habitat fragmentation.